But I'm sad that it's not around anymore. Like, you got some really good schools that just aren't going to really play meaningful games anymore. Like, we would go up to Washington State, we would play Washington, we would play Oregon State, UCLA, USC. Like, all those schools are awesome, competitive baseball schools to play. And it kind of sucks that I'm not going to get to look and watch from my perspective now. I love to watch Oregon baseball. That's one of my favorite things to put on the TV. So not seeing those games is going to be tough, but I think it's going to be really cool to see them go play early games. Like we were talking about the snow, like if they go out east and play against like Rutgers or a team like that, it's going to be really cold. So I'm excited to see how it all works out.
All right, guys, to the Show We Go baseball podcast. We're dipping back into the Blue Jay system today. You're my third Blue Jay we've had on this offseason. I had our good friend Hayden Yinger on. He's a return guest. That's my guy back home in 618 in St. Louis. Then we had Trenton Wallace as well, who was another one of your teammates this past year. So we're dipping right back into the Jay system. We got Josh Kasevich on. If you don't know much about Josh, he started the year in Double-A there in New Hampshire and ended up finishing off in Buffalo. So Josh, I know you're down in Florida right now, but how has the offseason been treating you so far?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. And it's been great so far. A lot of work to do, and it's fun to really dive into it. You can get very specific in the offseason, while during the season it's a little bit harder because you have your development early in the day, but then you got to get ready to go play. So the offseason is a great time to really dive into what you need to work on.
Yeah, and I guess, I did speak with you at one point during the season when you were in Double-A there in New Hampshire. And obviously since then, like, I feel like you kind of took off a little bit. Obviously you got promoted up to Triple-A, and you had a pretty good time in Triple-A. I know it was a short sample size, but still pretty good, I guess, feedback so far. So can you kind of take me through your 2024 season? And obviously, you started in Double-A, you got called up midseason. So can you just give me a couple takeaways there from your time in New Hampshire?
Yeah, New Hampshire was awesome. A lot of good competition there, a lot of fun teammates to play with. Started the year real cold, which I wasn't super used to. I went to college in Oregon. You get some rain, not really any snow, but we showed up to the field out of spring training coming from Florida. The field was covered in snow. So the first couple months, definitely cold, but heated up, and it was a ton of fun to play there. It's a fun league, a lot of good teams to play against. And it's kind of fun to see the same guys every month or so, and you get to see how they're doing and check up on them too.
So you weren't used to did it not snow up in Oregon at all?
We get a lot of rain. Very rarely do we get snow that'll stick.
Okay, so that was a new thing for you to kind of have. I remember in Portland as well, they got a snow out for their home opener, and so that was definitely a first time for you.
I've never played in the snow. I think our first game was in Binghamton, and we had it was either hail or snow coming down, and that was a first for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's especially starting the year in Buffalo. I mean, I'm sure you might get a taste of that next year. Buffalo around that time as well is not the most fun to play in. They get dumped with snow, so I'm sure you might experience that a little bit here at the beginning of the season. So, so obviously I do want to talk about this as well. You were the Double-A hits leader at the time of your promotion, and you had some competition that you were going up against, guys like Marcelo Meyer and Roman Anthony and just a few other guys around the league there that, you were facing every night. And I guess kind of talk me through, how you ended up there. I know you said you had a really slow start. So how did you kind of come out of that? What kind of things did you do?
Yeah, I think I started pretty good. I went into a little bit of a rut a couple months in, but it was I honestly never look at that stuff. I never look at those leaderboards during the year. I think the key for me is just staying consistent with how I prepare for the game, kind of the film I'm watching before, having an understanding of what they're going to throw, when they're going to throw it, and then knowing my strengths to go along with that.
So are you not a guy that, takes a peek at, numbers or anything like that? You don't do that during the season?
I'll look at some stuff, but I won't look at leaderboards or anything like that. Just want to focus on the game, really.
Okay. So did you not know that you were the Double-A hits leader?
I didn't know that. I heard it after the year once I got promoted, which I thought, oh, shoot, that's cool. But it was never on my mind like, oh shoot, I need to get 3 hits tonight, so I stay up top or something like that.
That's fair. No, I'm always so curious because I know some guys, I feel like it's you're on one end, and I feel like it's never in the middle where it's just like, no, I want to see like how I'm doing compared to this guy. Like I faced him in college a lot, or like he's my buddy or something. But or just a guy that's like, I don't even care about it. I'm just gonna go out and keep playing. So
yeah, you're right. It's totally opposite ends of the spectrum. There's never the middle guy that's like, oh, I'll check every once in a while, all in or all out.
Well, I do want to talk about something that was, a good, probably a very good feeling for you getting up to Buffalo. Can you kind of take me through, obviously when you found out and like how you found, were you doing anything special, or like, I guess, what was that like for you getting the call up to AAA?
So I think we were about 2 weeks into the second half. We were playing in Binghamton, which is where we had our first series. We were playing a doubleheader on Sunday, which is never great because later departure time, you get back home much later. So 2 7-inning games. So I played the first one, and then we get the schedule the night before. I was supposed to play the second game. They kind of called me in and said, hey, you're not going to play the second game. Your workload or some excuse that they made up is like too high. And so I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then after the second game, got promoted. It was awesome. Then we had a 5-hour bus ride back home, get back about 2 or 3 in the morning, pack up my whole apartment. I have a morning flight at around 9:30. So I basically just didn't sleep, packed everything, packed my car. Luckily, my parents came, took the car from New Hampshire to Buffalo, but I had to stay up all night, pack. Once I got there, it was awesome.
Did it, so I saw your first hit in AAA was a home run. And I think it might be safe to say that your calling card's not your power. I don't know if that's like a news flash for you or like anybody, but for you to have your first hit being a 3-run homer there, what did that mean to you? I guess just being on that team and having that moment.
Yeah, it was really cool. Always fun to get the first hit out of the way, and to have it be one of those homers is always a fun time. Hit a couple balls hard. That was a doubleheader day as well. I hit a couple balls hard in my first game that found gloves, and so I kind of felt like I was due a little bit. So it was a huge weight off the bat to get that first one out of the way.
So I am curious though. I want to. So for somebody that's not familiar with you, and maybe they haven't watched you play a ton or whatever it is, and like I just said, power's not your true calling card. But what would you say that some things that you excel at, and it can be like defensively or offensively?
I take a lot of pride in being able to impact the game and help a team win night in and night out. So that's kind of what I rest my laurels on, whether that's making a game-saving play on defense or going 0 for 3 and then having a big RBI coming up, helping the team win in that way. I just like to do anything I can to help the team. It's kind of a boring answer, but honestly, I get great satisfaction out of that, and that's why I play. So I think kind of scouting report wise, I'm a guy that gets a lot of hits, puts the ball in play quite a bit, and makes all the plays on defense.
So I'm gonna guess, since you don't look at numbers too much during the season, are you not a rankings guy either?
Not really. I mean, I see stuff here and there. My dad is into that, so he'll, oh, hey, did you see this? And I'm like, no, I didn't, but you can tell me if you want,
Okay. So I was going to ask, like, obviously, you're among some of the top ranked prospects in Toronto system. And does that mean anything to you? I mean, I know you might not be into it as much, but just to have like, your name among like a lot of your team, your fellow teammates that are doing pretty well. Does that mean much to you at all?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's always nice to be recognized. And we all have that common goal of getting to the big leagues and then helping that team win. So kind of being up there with people that can also do that and have that same goal in mind is a really special feeling.
So I told you previously, I had a couple of your teammates already on this podcast this offseason, and both of them have given me some just their experience on being around a guy, obviously, who might be a Hall of Famer that was in Buffalo's locker room, and a guy named Joey Votto. And I know that your time was a little less than what Hayden had, or for example. But how cool was it though to be sharing a locker room with a guy like that?
Unbelievable. Like, I grew up watching this guy hit home run after home run, and he was the best player in the world. I grew up not idolizing, but just really looking up to this guy as a player. And to get to be in the same locker room and kind of see who he is as a person was one of the coolest experiences I've been lucky enough to have playing baseball.
What kind of things did you notice? Like, I mean, obviously, like not particularly like on the field, but like maybe how he prepares every day, or I guess how he just went about everything. Like, what kind of things stuck out to you?
He knows exactly what he needs to get ready for a game. Whether it might be different from what everybody else needs, but this guy has been doing it for so long. He knows how to get ready for a game. So he was very specific and kind of routine oriented on what he would do. Whether that lined up with the schedule that we had as a team, sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. But that guy knew that when it was 6:30 or 7 o'clock, he knew how to be ready to play.
And so Joey Votto's side, obviously he's kind of an anomaly, and obviously with him being a future Hall of Famer and everything. But I always like to say one of the biggest differences, just being around like a AA clubhouse compared to a AAA is, you do have those guys in the clubhouse that have MLB time, and maybe this guy has 3 years, this guy over here has 2, but then you also have the guys that just got up from AA. So what kind of differences did you notice about the jump from AA to AAA?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head there. There's guys that have been there and done that, that have been playing the game for way longer than I have, which is you can learn from their experience first and foremost. So, see, I got to play with Nathan Lukes a little bit, another unbelievable player, and just the way he prepared himself and how seriously he took his recovery, his nutrition, everything in between. You don't really see that at the lower levels, and so getting to be around those guys and how serious they take all the little things that you don't really see when it's game time was a huge, huge learning experience for me.
So speaking of differences in AAA, you obviously had a luxury of seeing the challenge system for the first time, getting up there. Did you like it?
I liked it. I thought it's great for the game. I'm a huge fan of kind of the accountability aspect and how you can really trust yourself as a hitter. If you have good zone control, you kind of get a little boost there. Sadly, I was 0 for 1 on challenges. I was like, all right, when I do this first one, I'm for sure going to get this one right. And it was just like clipping the upper inner part of the zone. And so after that, I just put my head down and accepted my fate. But on defense, I love it when we don't get a call and our pitcher or catcher will hit the hat and then it's overturned. It's a really cool feeling.
Yeah, it's I feel like I've heard a lot of good things about the challenge system compared to like full ABS. You didn't get to experience the full ABS, did you?
I played full ABS in low A my first year. I think we did like 1 or 2 games a week with it. I like the challenge system more because you still have the human element. And then it also is like a little bit of a strategy, like, oh shoot, when do I burn my challenge? Like, this is a good time to maybe use this challenge, or should I hold it in my back pocket for later?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I just feel like the challenge system, it also like kind of gets the crowd involved too. Obviously like showing it on the Jumbotron and all that stuff. I didn't mind it.
Yeah, it kind of builds the anticipation when you're waiting for the ball to go into the zone.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's and it is interesting too. Like, did you guys have in Buffalo? I know a couple teams like around the International League where I know like Worcester kind of had it a certain way. I know Syracuse did it a certain way, but the manager would give guys like either green lights and be like, hey, like we're gonna use the challenges and like a strategy type thing. Like, did you guys have anything like that, or were they kind of just like, if you want to challenge it, just challenge it?
Not really. It was early in the game. It was like, you better be right because you want to, if not, then you want to save it for a later point in the game. But we didn't have any like strict rules on when not to challenge.
Okay. All right. Well, I got one more baseball related question before I jump to some things off the field here. But this one's like kind of unique, obviously with Toronto, with the big league club, in the spot that they were this past season. And, they were very active at the trade deadline and they actually added quite a few guys to the system, and compared to other, it's a one way or the other type thing. So for you as a player that, obviously you spent time at 2 different levels and you probably saw some new teammates this year. What kind of things did you think about, like, obviously, like, them selling off some pieces at the major league level, but adding a lot of talent in the system?
Yeah, all that decision making is out of my control. From my experience, I got to meet some really talented players, some really good individuals. some guys that were sent to New Hampshire for a little bit of time when I was still there were Charles McAdoo, RJ Schreck, Pinango, like all these great dudes that are really talented, and adding them to your system is always a positive thing. So it also kind of builds that, like, shoot, they're putting a little more stock into these, like into us and into these guys. Like, let's take that momentum and roll with it. So it feels good to have those guys around for sure.
Is it like a weird feeling as a guy in the system? Like, obviously either way too, right? Where it's like, some systems obviously are, they're adding at the deadline. So they're trading away some of your teammates or, vice versa. So like as a player though, in the system, is it a little weird to kind of see like, oh, like Spencer Horowitz, who I've been probably playing with for a couple years now, is gone now. Like, I just feel like as a player, it's got to be kind of a weird feeling to be like, man, that guy's not going to be here next year.
It's so weird. And like, there's the trade deadline, there's like the Rule 5 draft, and like all those times it's like everything is so unsure. You try to stay calm and like with yourself, but at the end of the day, you're people, and like you make some really good relationships with these guys that you're with every single day. And just to show up to the field and they're not there the next day, or they're not going to be at spring training the next year, is tough. So there's that human element too, where you're like, shoot, it's going to be hard for me to see these guys again. But at the same time, sometimes you get lucky and you get great guys coming in that you get to meet and surround yourself with.
Yeah, it's so hard to kind of put, like a normal person at like a 9 to 5, like go into like that kind of scenario where it's like, yeah, my coworker that's sitting next to me could just be like gone and he's working like across the country the next day, and like because of trade or whatever. It's like it just doesn't happen. So I didn't know how that was. It's got to be like such a weird feeling, just being like,
yeah, it's a weird time for sure.
Oh yeah. All right. So I'm jumping to a little bit of things off the field here. It's kind of why I started this thing. Like, instead of just like talking about numbers and stats the whole time, just kind of like see who you are a little bit. And I know we were just talking a little bit. You went to the University of Oregon, but you're a California kid growing up. So what made you choose Oregon?
Yeah, I grew up about a block away from Stanford. My dad is a professor there. My brother went there. I grew up going to baseball and football games there. They didn't recruit me, so they didn't. I went to high school right across the street, and then I talked to them very late, only for pitching. So I kind of always wanted to go there. Didn't get the opportunity. I got a visit from Oregon. Wanted to play in the Pac-12, and as soon as I took that visit, I saw the campus. I just saw myself there. And yeah, it was a no-brainer after that point. I never looked back, and it kind of created the fun divide in between our house, between Stanford and Oregon.
What were your, I'm assuming, you weren't too happy about the Pac-12 no longer being a thing. What were some of the thoughts whenever that happened?
Yeah, so I never experienced it. I played in the Pac-12. I think it's cool to be one of the last people to play in that conference. But I'm sad that it's not around anymore. Like, you got some really good schools that just aren't going to really play meaningful games anymore. Like, we would go up to Washington State, we would play Washington, we would play Oregon State, we would UCLA, USC. Like, all those schools are awesome competitive baseball schools to play. And it kind of sucks that I'm not going to get to look and watch from my perspective now. I love to watch Oregon baseball. Like, that's one of my favorite things to put on the TV. So not seeing those games is going to be tough, but I think it's going to be really cool to see them go play early games. Like we were talking about the snow, like, shoot, they go out east and play against like Rutgers or a team like that. It's going to be really cold. So I'm excited to see how it all works out.
Yeah, I'm still not used to Oregon or any of those teams, being in the Big Ten yet. Like, it still hasn't fully sunk out. I mean, obviously the football was good this year, but for baseball, I'm just like not going to be used to seeing like Oregon go play Penn State like as a Big Ten opener or something. Like, I don't know. I can't get used to it yet.
Yeah, I saw the schedule. They play Ohio State. I'm like, I don't think that's ever happened before.
Yeah.
For baseball.
Yeah, that's I don't know. It's a weird feeling, man. I miss Pac-12. Those were the games that were on like, late on Saturday and stuff. And I don't know. It was always so nice, like growing up, and you're just like, I got football to watch at night. I can watch USC and Oregon State, all those teams. So sad day, man.
The Pac-12 also had like that identity of being like West Coast baseball. And that's kind of gone now. So hopefully a couple of those schools keep it around and keep it going strong. But other than that, we might not be seeing too much more West Coast baseball.
Yeah, it's end of an era, man. So while you were at Oregon, I did these nice player profiles on the college websites are fantastic because they tell me some information that I wouldn't be able to find out otherwise. But you majored in economics. So I like asking a question that if you weren't playing professional baseball right now, what would you be doing with your life?
I don't think I would have said this coming out of high school, going into college. I think I want to be a college head coach. I think that would be a really cool thing to do. I still have to go back and finish up my econ degree, but I think there's something so special about changing those lives from 18 to 22-year-olds or 23, however many years, because of the portal now. But like at such a crucial age, being able to make such an impact on those kids, I think would be an experience you can never kind of get away from. So there's also the economics part where you get to manage all the scholarships and you get to kind of allocate your resources in certain parts of the game that you never really get to think about outside of that position. I think that would be really fulfilling.
So you said that, it may have not been the same answer, previously. So when you were heading in, when you were a high school senior heading into your first year at Oregon, what was your thought process then? Like, what did you say? Were you just kind of like, hey, if this baseball thing doesn't work out, like I got to do this?
I was like, I'll figure it out. Maybe like a doctor or maybe some finance guy. I don't know.
He's
I
one of
didn't have
us.
too many thoughts. Yeah, I was all baseball at that point.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy sometimes to think it's like, man, we had to like choose at 18, like what we wanted to do for the rest
Yeah,
of our life. And we were
you
not
talk to
ready.
these people that have it all figured out when they're in high school. You're like, must be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. So that's why I still think it's so crazy today's world. Obviously with baseball, and I know a lot of guys seem to be going the college route these days, and I know with NIL making it a little more lucrative to go the college route these days. But it's always so crazy to me to be like, hey, that guy, that kid just signed a huge deal at the age of 18, and he's like a professional athlete already. And I just remember when I was 18, I was like a complete idiot, and I was like, man, that's scary.
Yeah, for sure.
So what do you do in your free time?
I sounds kind of boring, but I love to train. I love to work out. Outside of that, I like cooking good food. I love hanging out with my fiance and just chilling, watching football, watching a show. Really kind of a simple guy. I want to get into golf, but I'm not the best golfer. So outside of that, it's really cooking and kind of just hanging out with family and friends.
I got a conspiracy theory for you about golf. If you're ready for it. I do get a lot of pitchers on this show this offseason. It's just majority pitchers. There's just a lot more of them out there. So, but obviously every pitcher golfs, every single system. They're golfers. That's just what they do. But the position players, I've had a few on this show that have told me that they will not golf because it will mess with their swing. Do you believe that or no?
I've heard that. I don't believe it. I saw this clip that Mike Trout said he would go golfing on all of his off days, and shoot, if he can do it, why not me?
Yeah, he could be like a special case, but
It's true. I say, I'm not good enough yet to where the swings would overlap. They're very different things for me at this point.
Are you one of those guys too that like you're like a lefty golfer or you same side?
Same side.
Okay. There's so many guys that are just like, oh yeah, no, my golf swing's left and I bat right-handed, so I'm good. Like it's not going to mess with me. So I don't know. I heard that one and thought it was interesting, but I do appreciate your answer, by the way, because every time I've asked that question this offseason, I only get two answers. One's golf, the other's video games. So you didn't give me either of those. So I'm kind of proud of you for that one. All right. So I have a question here. You grew up in California, and who are some of your favorite athletes growing up? It doesn't have to be just baseball, but any sports.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'll give you the non-baseball ones first. So growing up, went to a bunch of Sanford football games. They were right across the street. They were good back then. They had Harbaugh, one of the best teams in the country. They had Andrew Luck, and they had Christian McCaffrey that I remember watching so many of their games. And so I kind of idolized them on the football field. They were able to do some unbelievable things that not many people can accomplish on the football field. And they brought a program of Stanford that was horrible before Harbaugh came in and then they became one of the powerhouses. That was a really cool transition to watch, and watching them was awesome. The baseball answer is Brandon Crawford. Grew up Bay Area, so Giants fan. He was kind of the anchor shortstop on a couple World Series teams, who I always looked up to growing up.
So did you get to was Toby Gerhart before your time?
Oh no, Gerhardt's
Okay.
another one. Yeah.
Okay, because he was one of my favorite running backs. Like when I was a kid, I loved watching Toby Gerhart run.
Like in college or when he went to the NFL?
Oh, college.
He was carrying like 6 guys on his back into the end zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a monster.
I his NFL career was a little shorter than I would have liked, but man, he was like, it was around that time too when like Peyton Hillis was like on the cover of Madden back in the day, and I'm like, love these like just big white running backs that are just carrying dudes. Like,
yeah, they're not that fast, they're just super strong.
Yeah, he was probably one of the first like guys that made me watch Stanford, and then obviously you got to see CMC before the world knew who CMC was, so that had to have been a fun feeling too.
Yeah, he was so dynamic. He could run routes. He could run straight through people. He would make every tackle or miss. He was electric.
Yeah, it's man, CMC in college had to have been something different. Like it's I wish, like, if there was one wish I had for the NFL over the last like 5 years, it would be for CMC to never be injured. Like, dude, I miss him so much.
Yes, his whole career, it's like every year something happens, and you're like, shoot, if we could just see one full year where he could just put on a show.
Yeah. Coming from a guy who selected him 1-1 in a fantasy draft this year, it was tough.
This year? Oh, I'm sorry.
Tough look, man. Tough look. It's all good. I didn't do so hot, so that's all good. Okay. I need a Mount Rushmore from you. Are you a food guy at all?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm a big fan of like finding like the hole in the wall pizza places and stuff. And I just got married in October, so me and my wife, that's what we kind of do to like, appreciate it. And congrats on the fiance, by the way.
Thank you.
But we like to do like where we're kind of like, we want to go explore new places. Let's try to find like a restaurant or a hole in the wall, like mom and pop pizza place or something like that. Well, I'm going to the other end of this conversation. I'm going to need restaurant chains from you, and they can be fast food or sit down. I need your top 4.
Okay, I'm glad you gave me 4 instead of like 2, but I think Chipotle has to be there. Shoot, okay. Being a California guy, I'll throw In-N-Out on there.
Knew that was coming. It's
a good burger. It's a quality, quick, cheap burger. It has to go on there. Chipotle, In-N-Out. Shoot, on the road, honestly, a good staple is Buffalo Wild Wings, so I'll throw that one in there. And then Roadhouse. You got to go Texas Roadhouse.
Oh yeah, there we go. I will tell you this. I asked that question to everybody, and I get 3 of the same answers from every single player. It's Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, and Texas Roadhouse. Every time.
Yep.
Okay.
They're always trustworthy. You always know what you're getting. It's always going to be good.
So let me run something by you. I'm not biased on the situation. I'm not from Texas, or I'm not from California. The Whataburger versus In-N-Out thing is very interesting to me. Obviously, you're on the In-N-Out side, just being a California guy. But do you like Whataburger at all?
I've had Whataburger once. I don't really remember it. So I don't know if I can properly weigh into this debate. I will vouch for In-N-Out and say that it's a quality burger at a good price that is going to be quick and it's going to satisfy you every time.
I agree with you, man. I just moved to Dallas recently, so I got In-N-Outs and Whataburgers right on my street.
And you tell me, and what do you got?
I can't say that, man. I don't want to be. I don't know. I don't want to cross that line. I don't want to make Texans upset, and I don't want to make Californians upset. So I can't. I don't know. I love In-N-Out's burger. I think Whataburger's fries and In-N-Out's burgers are fantastic. I wish I could combine the two, but.
All right. I respect it.
Thank you. But In-N-Out burger is better than Whataburger. Their burgers. In-N-Out's better. So being a California guy, how did you choose which teams you like? Like, did you choose the Angels, Dodgers growing up? Or I guess, like, how does the sports dynamic work for a kid growing up in California?
Luckily for me, I'm Northern California. So I only got the Giants and I guess the A's too, but they're on the other side of the bay. So the Giants were really the the obvious choice for me. I live pretty close to San Francisco, so quick drive up to those games. But yeah, I can't imagine being from LA when you have like 7 different sports teams all in the same area. That's got to be too much to handle.
Yeah, I apologize for being a guy that's not ever really gone out to the West Coast. I know there's a lot more than LA out there, so I apologize for that one. But so you had San Fran there. So were you a pretty big Giants fan, or like I guess how was it growing up like with your fandom?
Growing up, for sure. So my parents would take us there before 2010. So before they kind of hit their 5 years kind of dynasty, if you want to call it. So I was growing up and we would go watch like Bonds play, which was like, I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I'm like, that was an unbelievable experience that I got to have. So I like to think I was in it before all the bandwagons hopped on. And then like when they went on that run, it was sick. And like all my friends got invested because they were doing so good. And I kind of got to say I was involved before that. But yeah, that was a great childhood team to have, especially because I kind of hit the sweet spot of timing for when they were in their prime.
Yeah, I wish it like we would have known back then that it was kind of like the good old days or something. Like I don't know, like that saying where it's like you were just watching like probably one of the best baseball players you'll ever see in your lifetime, most likely.
Yeah, so. I was like, I want to go home. I'm cold now when Barry Bonds is hitting. Like, I wish I knew.
Yeah, I grew up in St. Louis and I didn't know at the time watching Albert Pujols all the time. I'm just like, this guy's going to end up hitting like 7 home runs or 700 home runs. You just have no idea. It's like, all right, Josh, I got one question left for you and we'll let you slide out of here. You got a pretty important spring training coming up here just in about a month from now. It's sneaking up on us. You made it up to AAA. You're 1 call away from the major leagues. So I would say this spring training coming up is probably pretty important, and it's definitely one that you're gonna probably be watched a little bit harder than usual. So for you, what kind of things are you looking forward to coming up here in spring training, and I guess just being around some of the possibly being around some of the big league guys and just being in more big league games?
Yeah, I'm just excited to get back to it. I love to play baseball. I love to compete, and spring training is a really fun time where you get to see all your friends again. You get to suit up again and kind of get back into things. So I'm just excited to get going. Like we briefly talked about at the beginning, just tune all the outside stuff out, just go play and have fun. Like that's what we love to do. So just excited to get back out there.
Yeah, it's going to be here, man, before you know it. So, Josh, I appreciate all the time. I know, obviously, you're down in Florida already, but obviously, as you're gearing up towards it, we're best of luck for you once you get to spring training and to the 2025 season, wherever you begin. But I know that me and the wife are going to get Chipotle tonight, so that is something I am looking forward to after that conversation with you. But thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.